Mr. President, we are back on the floor with the Energy Policy Modernization Act, an act that many of us have spent considerable amount of time not only here on the floor discussing, but prior to its arrival here on the floor of the Senate, working through a process that, quite honestly, I'm very pleased to be able to report on. As you have just heard with the voice vote that we just took on block, we have accepted and adopted 29 additional amendments to this broad, bipartisan, and some would suggest long-stalled energy bill. But we've been working on this now on the floor for more than 2 months. It actually first came to the floor on January 27th of this year. But you've seen some patience, you've seen a little bit of persistence, and I think truly good faith negotiation. Last week we were able to clear the last of the objections to this bill and to define a path forward. Again, we've just reached unanimous consent on these 29 additional votes. There will be 8 roll call votes this afternoon, and then votes on cloture and final passage. And hopefully today we will see the last day of debate on our energy bill. But since we've been away from it for so long, I wanted to start my comments this afternoon by reminding colleagues of the process that we have followed and of the many good provisions that we have incorporated within the bill that make it worthy of the Senate's support. It began with a pretty simple and straightforward recognition that it was time, it was actually well past time to update and reform our nation's energy policies. The last time that the Congress passed an energy bill, a major energy bill, was in December of 2007. December of 2007. So it's been almost a decade's worth of changes in technologies, changes in markets taking place out across the country. Our energy space has changed, but what hasn't changed are the policies. The policies that we see are increasingly outdated and detached from the opportunities that we need to advance good energy policy in this country. So what did we do? We set out to write a bill. Our Energy Policy Modernization Act is the result of more than a year of hard work by those of us who serve on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. It's the result of multiple listening sessions, multiple legislative hearings, bipartisan negotiations, and then a multi-day markup that we held last July. And at the end of that markup, we were able to approve a bill by a strong bipartisan margin, 18-4. And the reason that that bill passed out of committee with such strong bipartisan support was not just because of our commitment to a good process. And that was very clear. It was a good process throughout. But we matched that good process with a commitment, an equal commitment to good policy. We worked together across the aisle to include good ideas from members on both sides of the aisle, from members on the committee and members off of the committee. Some of the things that we agreed to include that just kind of speak to the input that we received. Senator Barrasso has led an effort that will streamline LNG exports. He was joined by 17 other members. That's incorporated in our bill. We agreed to include a major efficiency bill that the occupant of the chair here, the senator from Ohio, joined with the senator from New Hampshire, has spearheaded for years. That bill was supported by 13 other members and is incorporated as part of this overall Energy Policy Modernization Act. We agreed to improve our mineral security. This is something that I have been leading along with Senators Heller and Crapo and Risch. We worked to better promote the use of hydropower, a renewable, emission-free resource that is favored by just about everybody in this chamber. We agreed to streamline permitting for natural gas pipelines. This was an effort that was led by the senator from West Virginia, Senator Capito. We agreed to a new oil and gas permitting pilot program. This was one of the several ideas that the senator from North Dakota, Senator Hoeven, had helped advance. We have worked to improve our nation's cybersecurity based on legislation that was advanced by the senator from New Mexico, Senator Heinrich, as well as Senator Risch from Idaho. We also made innovation a key priority to promote the development of promising technologies. And as part of that, we agreed to reauthorize some of the energy-related provisions that were contained in the American Competes Act, which was led by Senator Alexander from Tennessee. We also agreed to reauthorize the coal R&D program at the Department of Energy. This was, again, based on another bipartisan proposal that was led by both senators from West Virginia, as well as the senator from Ohio, who's occupying the chair now. What we came away with was a substantive, timely, and a bipartisan measure that has a very real chance of being the first major energy bill signed into law in well over 8 years. So this is important, Mr. President, from a host of different reasons. Moving forward with this act will help America produce more energy. And at the same time, it will help Americans save more money and save energy with all of the energy efficiency provisions. It will help ensure that energy can be transported from where it's produced to where it is needed. It will strengthen our status as the best innovator in the world. And it will bring us just one step closer to becoming a global energy superpower. And it will do all this without raising taxes, without imposing new mandates, and without adding to the federal deficit. Very important on many, many fronts. And that was our starting point here on the Senate floor back in January. And when we came to the floor with the energy bill, I think those of us on the Energy Committee thought it was a pretty strong bill then, but we made it better. We kept building on it. Since the debate began, we have voted on a total of 38 amendments. We've accepted 32 of them. We've added even more good ideas from even more members to an already very bipartisan package. Right now, as it sits, the Energy Policy Modernization Act includes priorities from 62 members of the Senate. In other words, more than 3/5 of the members of this body have contributed something to this overall bill, and that number will rise throughout the day as we process additional amendments. One amendment that I am particularly pleased with is the resources title that I've worked on and written with Senator Cantwell. We have agreed to a package of 30 lands and water bills, which will address a wide range of issues in western states. And that package also includes the bipartisan sportsmen's provisions that we have been working to pass now in this body for at least 3 Congresses. This is a measure that will ensure that our public lands are open unless closed for a legitimate reason, to require agencies to enhance opportunities for our sportsmen on public lands, and more. And I want to recognize my colleague from New Mexico here who has helped us with this endeavor in making sure that sportsman's package was included as this bill moved forward. It is true, Mr. President, that we were a little bit delayed in reaching the point where we are at today as we are processing these final amendments. But I want to thank the Senate and the Majority Leader for sticking with us on this. At one point in time, it was suggested that we were going to have to pull a rabbit out of a hat in order to get this bill back on the floor with a consent process that would allow us to finish up. Well, the rabbit has come out of the hat. Some might suggest it was a little bit battered, but But nonetheless, nobody gave up on this bill, and I want to acknowledge Senator Cantwell and her staff for working with us every step of the way. We knew that we had a path forward. We worked tirelessly to find it because we know that this is a bill worth passing. Over the next couple of hours, members will have an opportunity to deliver their final comments on our energy bill, and after that, we will move to these 8 stacked roll call votes, followed by votes on cloture and then hopefully on final passage. I am pleased to be able to say that we will have wrapped up our work on this bill and send it over to the House of Representatives, again, hopefully by the time that we go home tonight. But I thank the Senate for working with us to get to this point, and I would encourage members on both sides of the aisle to recognize the good work and the good ideas that are included within this bill. And then, when the time comes, I encourage every member to vote yes on a broad, bipartisan, good energy bill.